Welcome to this episode. And I'm here with Dan Hodge, and I'm pleased to introduce him as the Regional Property Director of Northern Trust. And yeah, I'm just going to jump in here and talk about his insights into the property sector. And we're very pleased to have him on board. Hi, Dan.
Hi, good morning or afternoon, should I say
Good.
now?
Yeah, we're at an awkward stage where we're just crossing over, aren't we? So,
Yeah, we
uh,
are.
can you tell us a bit about your journey in real estate and what led you to your current role?
Sure. I've essentially been a property agent for the last 25, 26 years now, terrifyingly. And that started off in East Yorkshire for a few years. And then I made the move across to Leeds and West Yorkshire, probably about going back, I would say about 23, 24 years ago. And at that point, I sort of became an office agent throughout Leeds and West Yorkshire. And then about 10 years ago, I stumbled across a couple of clients that led me into the industrial market, both in terms of lettings, sales, and investment as well. And it's sort of built up over the last 10 years, shall we say. And then through that, I was able to come to Northern Trust as Regional Property Director, which basically is looking after 520 odd properties across Yorkshire and Lincolnshire, mainly of industrial accommodation, but with some office parks as well.
Amazing. So you're covering all bases. I know from the research that you're also involved in the development stage. Is that correct?
Yes, we are. We are classed as developers as well as landlords. The difficulty that we're always faced with is mounting costs, and even when we have owned land for a number of years, it's the build costs that are really restrictive. But we completed on an industrial estate going back probably about 18 months ago, about 25,000 square foot of small industrial units ranging from 500 to two and a bit thousand square feet, over 26 units. But even that estate took some government, or it was European funding, should I say, to make it work. So, yeah, we are developers as and when we can find the right site that stacks up, which is really difficult to do, even if we own the land.
Yeah, I imagine so. A lot of red tape there. And so I know you said the last 10 years you've moved into this sector, but what's the biggest change in the industry over the last 2 to 3 years, would you say?
The biggest change really has been the impact of the environmental position. And I think with the pressing of the EPCs and environmental performance certificates, and with the necessity for landlords to get those buildings up to C grade or better by, well, it was 2027, it's now 2028. And whether or not that changes, but it has put us as landlords under quite tremendous pressure to ensure that our buildings are ready to be let, and we're not hit with a significant investment come 2028. So we are trying to roll out over the last 2 or 3 years, getting all our buildings up to a C grade. But as you can imagine, an industrial property of 40, 50 years old, it does take quite a bit of investment. And we have quite a few of those across our portfolio, not just Yorkshire, but also the Northwest, Northeast, and Birmingham. So I would say the last 2 or 3 years, I think landlords' attentions have definitely been turned towards that kind of how we environmentally sound, what do we need to do to get it ready for 2028 to ensure that we can let these buildings and that we're not stuck with an unlettable property.
Yeah, and that sounds like a great focus, and it sounds like a massive challenge, but you sound well up for it.
Yes, we are. Well, we have to be, or else it goes to the point where we can't let our buildings. And whilst it's, like I said, there's been potential delays to 2028, we are still only 3 years away. And when we're trying to get these buildings up to C grade, it can take a lot if, single skin buildings, or if we've got different types of heating involved that are no longer appealing to the EPC assessors. We are up for it, but it is a big change.
How much of a role do you play in that?
So it's quite a hands-on approach that we have. There's quite a lot of removing of old heating systems, replacing the lights to LED, but we are getting to the point where we know what we need to do. It's just the cost involved of putting it right. Yes.
Yeah. And how are you currently adapting your business strategy to current market conditions?
We are quite lucky in that the industrial market over the last 10 years has just gone from strength to strength. And it is definitely the sector that the investors want to be involved in. It's definitely the sector that has the biggest the biggest demand, should I say. And because of the build costs, there's definitely a restriction in supply. So we are quite lucky in that respect. It's further added that the demand is now across the board from anything in terms of thinking of our tenants. 20 years ago, on an industrial estate, you would have had your typical fabricators, car repair people, things like that. Whereas now we've got all manner of different users on our portfolio, from the typical industrial occupiers through to people that would have needed a shop front a while back. Now they just need a big box with a telephone line that they can sell their goods across the world. So it really has changed dramatically. But it's been good for us in terms of demand. We are just trying to get to the point where the buildings, an old industrial unit of 40 years old, is it still ready for a modern occupier? And that's the other part of the difficulty is getting things like fibre into the units, getting the office ready for occupying. It's no longer just a car repair person that just needs a little office. So we are adapting them, but it is difficult on buildings of that age.
So I know you spoke about those opportunities, but what do you see as the biggest opportunities in the market right now?
I think in terms of opportunities for us, we are just trying to find more accommodation to bring into our portfolio because of the demands that we've seen. But so is everybody else, and the investors out there. They're all keen to get into this sector of multi-let industrial estates. Really are and have been for quite some time. They are the buzzword of the investment market. So we are trying to get more accommodation, and because then that will allow us as landlords to move our tenants around. We love the idea of tenants staying with us throughout and growing with us as their business grows. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to grow our portfolio in order to allow the tenants to grow with us, because there's nothing better than taking somebody who takes a 500 square foot unit and in a few years' time they're still with us, but they're now in a 5,000 square foot unit.
Amazing. Yeah, it's good that you want to be part of that story as well, and that success. It's a joint effort, and we know that that's how business is. At this moment in time, how are you approaching risk management in today's economic climate?
I think we are being a lot more selective with our tenants to ensure that we are getting the right tenant in, to ensure that our tenants are reputable, a lot more selective. So we're trying to reduce the risk on that. We're trying to ensure that the properties that we are looking at to purchase to bring into our portfolio are ones that we can continue to let for the next 10, 15 years, even despite sort of the issues that are being brought in to make it a little bit more difficult to let. So we are ensuring that we're trying to ensure that the buildings that we have are ready to be let and let to a good tenant, and therefore it allows us to, see growth in rents, which is what we need. As costs go up and as we start to run these estates, we need to see some growth in rents. So we need to ensure that the properties that we're buying or the properties that we own are well looked after, well maintained by both landlord and tenant, to avoid voids. We don't want voids. We don't like them. We want tenants to remain, or we want tenants to stay with us. And when we do get a void back, we like to let it quickly, because it costs us money as landlords to hold empty units.
Yeah, there's a lot to think about there. What's working well in your operations that others might not be doing?
I think just tenant retention is working well. And I think, listening to their needs and in trying to help them, whatever their concerns are about the estate that they're on, we try and listen and we try and do as much as we possibly can within reason. So I would say that we are really good at retaining tenants. And, whether or not, I'm sure other landlords like to try and do it, but we really do work with them. I think we work hard to ensure that our buildings are modern. We work to ensure that every year we have an amount of planned maintenance that we get on with. So we always are looking to update our buildings. We're really sort of we're not shy at spending money in order to make the units look as good as we can.
And how are you balancing technology adoption with traditional real estate practices?
It's really difficult, I think, at times about trying to move the commercial property sector into, shall we say, modern times. And I know that I've spoken to quite a few other quite significant landlords across the country of how they're doing it, and grand plans to make the commercial property market move quicker. But when we're still tied up to the Landlord and Tenant Act 1954, Commercial Properties Act, which is, 70 years old now, 71 years old. So I think whilst that is in that state, I think it's quite difficult to modernise the market. Tenants, are the ingoing tenants or people that are viewing properties to decide where they want to be, they like the interaction. They want to be able to speak to the agent or the landlord to understand the building, get to know the building. Our websites now are bang up to date. We can now do videos to get people to view through a video system, but they still want to go and look at it. So we'll do everything we can to make it as smooth a transition and to make people allow people to make better decisions, shall we say, when viewing a property, to decide, is that the way I want to be? That tactile approach of wanting to see it and feel the building itself is still very much there.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's great that you're utilizing it in a way where you can add that additional touch in between when they can actually view the property and speak with you or get shown around by you. I know you spoke about growth of people and growth of team members. What strategies are Northern Trust using for sustainable growth of the company?
In order for us to grow, we need to see the market continue as it is. We need to be able to grow the number of properties that we have. We need to be able to see rental growth. The best way to do it is by continuing to expand our business by buying the right property that's going to appeal to tenants.
And yeah, I'll leave it with this one question here, which is what advice would you give to others in the industry about preparing for future challenges?
There'll be a few people I know saying, please, Dan, don't give anybody advice. The challenges that we're going to be faced with are like things such as it's going to become more difficult to find land. And then when you do it, it's the build costs that are going to be difficult to grow because build costs. But I think, these challenges are going to be difficult. But I think if I was speaking to my colleagues in my office, I'd be just, let's continue to push it and enjoy it for what you can. It's really good. It's a great business and it's a great sector to be part of. But just enjoy it for what you can and just treat people the way you want to be treated. That's how I would see it.
Great insights there into the future as well. So thank you for that outlook. Shows a great depth into the industry, and I'm sure that this episode is really going to give people a bit more of an insight into this area of real estate. So thank you very much, Dan, for your time.
That's all right. No, thank you, and thanks for your time.